Good morning and welcome to Build. I'm your host, Brittany Jones-Cooper. A new primetime medical drama is headed our way. Inspired by the oldest public hospital in America, New Amsterdam follows a hospital struggling to regain its former glory. One obstacle is that its lead doctor, played by Freema Agyeman, is more focused on TV appearances instead of patients. Agyeman is here to talk about her newest role, but first, a clip from New Amsterdam.
Dr. Helen Sharpe, Max Goodwin, how can I help?
Oh, you're too kind. Welcome to the dam. Why are you in scrubs?
Because I'm a doctor. Going somewhere?
I have to tape segments with the morning show and Megyn Kelly, then give the keynote address at the oncology conference in Vail.
I'll take that for you.
Thank you.
Wow, you're going to do all that on your lunch break.
You're funny. I'll be back next week. We'll lunch at the tavern. My treat.
Unlike the previous medical director, I actually expect you to practice medicine at this hospital because, I don't know, it's your job.
You're funny.
You said that.
I'll tell you what, I'll continue giving speeches all over the world because you can't afford the kind of publicity I give this hospital. And I'll continue my on-air appearances with Ellen, Oprah, and anyone else powerful enough to go by one name because someone has to remind New York that even though New Amsterdam is an underfunded public hospital, we can still go toe-to-toe with the privates from basic care to state-of-the-art procedures. I will be back next week. We'll lunch at the tavern. My treat.
I like her. If she comes back, let's keep her.
Everyone put your hands together for Freema Agyeman.
Thank you.
I mean, Dr. Helen Sharpe, I mean, she's so fierce. I think you can't mess with somebody who's so smart because she can talk her way through it. And you got the accent. It just, very authoritative.
Just gets me through.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, she's great.
So yeah, tell me about this show. It's brand new. Are you excited for people to see it?
Really excited. We are chomping at the bit to just get it out there because when we did the pilot, we had such an amazing time. And it doesn't always tally that when you're having a great time and you feel like the script is really good, it doesn't necessarily always translate to the screen because, you know, things can be lost in translation and your imagination can often do more than you can actually, you know, in reality. But with this, we've seen the pilot and I was like, are we allowed to like really champion our own product? Are you allowed? Is it cool to be able to stand there and say, I would watch this even if I wasn't in it? We're so excited. The scripts are fantastic. They're really topical. They're talking about things that are very relevant in society right now, as well as, you know, the team being fantastic. The creative team have got such brilliant caliber, but also really enthusiastic about the product. And the rest of the actors are just the nicest people you could ever hope to work with.
Tell me a little bit about the show because the origin story is actually really interesting with it being based off of the book, an actual man's real experience being a doctor at Bellevue Hospital.
Absolutely. So it's based on a book called 12 Patients, Life and Death at Bellevue Hospital. And that is a memoir by Dr. Eric Mannheimer, who was the chief medical director at Bellevue for from 97 to, I think he was there for like 15 years. And so he wrote about these 12 patients that struck him in terms of the kind of the socio-political representation. I mean, he's addressing poverty, class, the economy, looking at kind of the issues in society through the prism of the healthcare, the fractured healthcare service. So it's really quite fascinating to look at these 12 patients, where they stand in society, what that means for society, and also some of them are stranger than fiction, the stories, and you think if you made that up, you wouldn't necessarily believe it. And then the most interesting thing is he's actually one of the 12 patients that he's talking about. So he actually suffered with throat cancer while he was medical director. So to be a patient and run an institution, he was really experiencing the healthcare service from both sides of the line. So it's really interesting to get that perspective on it.
So taking that book, are those stories necessarily going to be in New Amsterdam? Are we going to see each of those 12 patients?
Good question. And what do we do when they run out? We need a whole series. Yes, so they're modified slightly, but they are taken, in essence, I think in the first episode we have one, in the second that we're touching on two. But he's actually a producer on the show. So when we run out of those 12, he can kind of keep it in the same vein as his vision, But it's amazing because the creator, David Schulner, he said he was so tired of going to dinner parties and having really deep, wonderful conversations with colleagues and at these parties about relevant issues, and then going back to his desk and writing about superheroes. I mean, there's a place for superheroes. We all love a superhero. But he just felt like he wanted to talk about what was going on right now. So he has a very clear vision and a really good voice, but having Dr. Mannheimer there to kind of, taper that all in, I feel like it's a really authentic representation.
Yeah, how much are the stories going to be ripped from the headlines? Because obviously there is a plethora of stories right now in the media going on with the Affordable Care Act and, all of these things that are affecting Americans. So is it something where the show's going to be reactive and actually pulling real headlines?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as we can in the 45 minutes. I will say, Ryan and I had a moment the other day. We stood there and we were like, we can't actually believe we're getting to tell this story. Is anybody pulling a plug anywhere? And I feel like audiences are ready at this point for stories that are about real situations, real people going through real issues, because we all are. And we're not doing it in a cynical way. It doesn't feel downbeat. So I feel like it's quite zeitgeisty right now. It feels like people are ready for these kind of stories. But they are directly things related to what's going on right now.
It almost feels like you can't ignore what's going on.
No.
And we're seeing it in so much of our art, whether it's in film or TV or books, that it's starting to reflect more and more of what we're seeing and experiencing. So I think New Amsterdam is probably hitting the nail right on the head.
Right. And there are so many platforms out there that do tell great stories and do reflect society in an authentic way. And I think with Network, the time is now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We need to move forward.
And so tell us about Dr. Sharpe, because she looks like a firecracker.
She's great. She's a lot of fun. I mean, initially, we didn't know much about her from the pilot. She looks like this high-flying, jet-setting kind of PA representative for the hospital. She is actually the head of oncology. But she doesn't spend an awful lot of time at the hospital because they've got this revolving door of medical directors. They've had like 5 in 5 years. So no one stays there very long to affect any real positive change. So I think all of the staff have fallen into their own stride. And she's decided to take this secondment and fly around the world and speak at conferences and, appear on Ellen and Oprah. And she likes this lifestyle that she's afforded for herself, but there is a reason why why she's become disillusioned with the service. There's a reason why she doesn't want to be there. We explore that as the series goes on. But Max Goodwin comes in and pulls everybody in line, and it's like, shape up or ship out. And I think she sees that as you get towards the end of the pilot, she actually does see that he's there to affect change and is a good man and is making sacrifices to put the patient first, to restore the hospital back to its former glory. So I think her eyes are opened a little bit.
I don't want to assume, but you probably didn't go to med school, right?
Why do you assume?
I mean, you could have. Some people do, and they're like, actually, I want to act. It's like, you went to med school? So what was it like sort of trying to get through some of this medical jargon? I mean, was that sort of an obstacle, just making sure you say things right and actually portraying the role with some respect and honesty to real doctors, right?
Sure. Again, great question. That's a big concern. The support foundation on this show is brilliant. They can put things in place in every direction to help you get to a point where you feel you can tell the story in a truly authentic way. And one of the things they did, Dr. Mannheimer actually set us up with appointments to visit the real-life people that we are portraying. So I went to see Mary Lynn Nierodzik, who's the head of oncology and hematology at Bellevue Hospital. And I was nervous going in to meet her because I don't know what I was expecting. This woman is formidable. And even when I was checking in at the desk, they were like, you're going to see Dr. Nierodzik. She's fantastic. She's fantastic. And I was like, I'm going to feel like I don't know what to say. So I got in there. What was I expecting? She's a normal human being who was so jolly. That's what struck me. I was expecting morose because, I don't want to make a generalization, but I feel like cancer is such a prevalent disease that has maybe affected all of us on some level. but she is dealing with it every single day of her life. And I was expecting a hardened person who has to learn to cope with that. But we were talking about patience. We got emotional. I cried because some of the stuff which made her cry. And I was like, oh my God, you're not a robot. You feel, so how do you cope with all of it? And, you know, they have things, systems in place, and they implement ways to cope. I have no words for how sobering it was to meet her, and how helpful. I did say to her, so how do I act like a doctor? And she was like, but it depends on who's presented to you. You have to deal with each person personally, as an individual. So there isn't a blanket response to that. You don't act like a doctor with everybody. You give the patient what they need. And that gave me freedom as an actor to actually just respond in the moment.
Yeah, you say this isn't a show about superheroes, but it kind of is, right? It sort of sounds like it is. These people really dedicate their lives to other people's lives. In addition to how they balance it, is there anything else that you found surprising about the medical field that maybe you didn't know going in?
There's very much a village feel, which I enjoyed. They encourage each other, and it is a stressful, high-intensity profession to go into, but she said they really do keep an eye on each other. They make sure if they can see someone is taking on too much, someone will step in, and it's just kind of there's a real community feel to it. And I don't know, it warmed me, because we all have experience of what it's like to be a patient. We are aware of the bureaucracy that's right at the other end of that. But then there's this realm in the middle occupied by these medical professionals who are kind of doing all of it and balancing all of it. And they may be in a position to affect change, but their hands are tied by the red tape as well. So they're trying to affect change, trying to do good, being patients themselves. There's so much going on. So it was a real eye-opener into their world, really.
I'm always surprised by how much they don't sleep. Like how they're able to function and save lives after like a 24, 48-hour shift. To me, that's always amazing.
Absolutely. And especially, I asked a doctor once, I said, do you have to be like exceptionally good, I suppose, at science? That's the number one. And I remember he answered, he said, well, first and foremost, you have to be very thorough. Your science comes into it, he said, but it's about being thorough. And it's the details. So let alone when you're exhausted. Yeah. They're amazing, amazing people.
I mean, sometimes I can't do this job if I didn't get a good night's sleep the night before, so I can't even imagine 10-hour surgery.
Oh, no, you're sharp. Your questions are good.
Thank you so much. On that note, so there's something really iconic about being on a primetime medical drama, right? I'm sure every actor, if you can get one of those jobs, I feel like it's a really big deal because they're so iconic and we've had them throughout time. And then I looked at the schedule and you guys your lead-in is This Is Us.
Yes.
That's the show on before you guys. So you're in this really great spot on this network. Have you had time to kind of process just what that means to you?
Yes and no. When we were at the upfronts and we were there with the NBC family and you're like, oh my God, this is quite something to be in this group of incredible people. When we found out we were put in that very coveted slot, we were kicking our height. Because it's very coveted. This Is Us is hugely successful. It's very validating. It does mean that the network is behind the show. They do believe in it. They do want people to see it. But the two pair very nicely as well, I think, just like about what we were talking about earlier. This Is Us is about real people. It's about real life situations, and look at how well it's done. That's why I feel like there's this shift in audience viewing towards some realism and reflection. And our show is very much doing that too. So I think it's a good pairing. Tissue Tuesday is what I'm hearing being coined on social media.
I was going to say, I feel like I'm just going to be a blubbering mess on Tuesday. This Is Us always has me on the ground, and then I'm going to watch it. I already know, but I'm ready. I'm preparing for it. The tissues have been ordered on Amazon.
Good girl.
When I told some friends that you were coming to Build, the first thing they said was Doctor Who. I mean, your fan base is rabid.
Avid. Rabid.
I mean, people love. Do you guys watch Doctor Who? I mean, everybody loves that show. Bennett.
One in the
house. So tell me, I know that the recent news with that show is that the new Doctor Who's going to be a woman.
Yes.
So what are your feelings about that?
Oh my God, my feelings are it's just about time. I think you know, one of the strengths of that show is change. That's, I think, the key to its longevity. The fact that it has lasted 50 years is testimony to that. The main actor changes, the companion changes, people get a chance to see themselves reflected on television. Again, that's not an area that everybody can say that, you know, they're able to have the privilege of. So to have a woman suddenly be in that role, I mean, you hear responses from people going, but what about all those little boys? How are they going to... First of all, I think the little boys will be fine. They have enough role models out there. Also, I don't think the complaints are coming from the little boys seeing a woman in charge. That's not where the issues are coming from. So I feel it's fascinating that it ruffled so many feathers. It means we're not quite where we need to be yet. I mean, women are still not paid equally. So
Yes.
in many areas of the entertainment industry. So this is huge for what it's going to do. It's such a popular, you know, such a popular show. And so, yeah, for me, I feel like it was not a moment too soon.
I always love when people get all caught up on fictional characters. Like, they can't be this, they can't be that. I'm like, they're not real. They can be anything.
The Doctor is an alien, yeah.
So,
we need to remember.
So I'm all for it, you know. And
Yeah.
I think what it does too is I'm maybe somebody who hasn't been that into sci-fi, and when I
Right.
see things like this, it makes me excited and it makes me want to be involved and watch. And so I think it's actually a good move for them to kind of open up the audience even more and touch more people.
Really and truly, and as I say, I feel like that's one of the strengths of the show. That's its power. Stories are more engaging when they reflect the many facets of society, not just the few. I mean, please.
So some of those fans of yours asked me to ask you, would you ever go back and work on Doctor Who?
I never say never, just because I feel like in the world of sci-fi, anything's possible. Like, even if your character's dead, you can come back. But my character isn't, so she is out there running around somewhere. So she could potentially. I'm not sure I would do it just for the sake of doing it. You know, I would if there was some more character development there. The writing got a little bit stuck in the unrequited love sort of realm. Your friends will know what I mean by that. So there would need to be a little bit more character development there, I think, for it to be of interest. I feel with my career I'm interested in diversification and I do believe in the characters I play. So much so that I wouldn't just want to go and just do something. I would want her to be developed a little bit more. I felt like that could have been an opportunity taken. So for that reason I would.
You mentioned diversity in roles. What is a role that you would really want to tackle next?
Do you know, I never really know job to job. I get swayed by the material. And if it's a great story or it has good... the message is important. That sways me. The characterization is huge. The last job, excuse me, that I just did was something that changed me so profoundly as a human and as an artist, and that was Sense8 on Netflix. And for me, being able to play this queer, cisgendered urban hippie, you know, was not necessarily a character I'd ever thought up in my head, but you get these opportunities and to work with incredible directors like the Wachowskis to give a genuine depiction, you know, of the LGBTQ society, who's really, the representation is really not there on mainstream television. And so that whole movement for me was something that I would consider to be very important and so fulfilling. So I get driven by the work, I get excited by the work, but I also, you know, I came into acting quite late and I'm learning on the job. I feel like sometimes that's a dirty phrase in some circles, but you don't know everything. You kind of learn as you go. You get these opportunities. I'm so grateful for them. But I don't believe in like working for the sake of working and square pegging a round hole. There's probably other people that are better for the job. You know, just you have to believe it, I feel, for myself to authentically do it.
I love that, letting the material lead you, and then obviously choosing roles that maybe challenge you a little bit. Like, I read an article you were talking about Sense8 where like you had never done nudity like that, and just something where you have to really reach inside yourself, I think is what keeps it probably fun and interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely that.
All right, well, now's a good time. I know we have some audience questions. So who do we have first? Me right here.
Hi.
Hello.
I was wondering, how do you go about building a new character for television?
So sometimes when I read a script, it's almost an immediate, like I can see that human being immediately. And I have all these ideas, and it could be that I kind of see them as maybe a bit of an alter ego of myself, which is maybe why I can see another side of myself in them. And other times, it's just a blank slate. I like the character. I'm getting a kick out of her for some reason, but I don't know who she is. And with this character, this isn't a typical role I play. That sort of authoritative, grown up. So I was a little bit like, ooh, I'm not entirely sure. And my scripts on one job, it will be covered in like notes and drawings and highlights and really well-thumbed, dogged script. And on other jobs, it's just there's not a mark on them because I'm working from a different place. And this is the latter on this job because I'm just finding out. I'm discovering each time, working with Dr. Mannheimer and each of the directors that come in, and with the creative team, David Schorner, Peter Horton, Kate Dennis, directed the pilot. Everyone's we're padding it all up together, bit by bit. I feel episode by episode, I'm understanding more. Also, meeting people for research when they tell you there is no right and wrong gives you freedom, which I think is important as well. And then what starts to happen is the writers start to learn from you as well. And then you open a script and you start to see they've tweaked something that sounds more like you or behaves more like, is a behavior or a mannerism. I'm very hands. So it becomes a marriage really to create that human being. Thank you.
Next question.
Hello. Hi. So I was wondering if you learned something interesting about the medical or human body from playing this role.
I have heard so many fascinating little facts about the body and about the healthcare system in general, actually. I heard the other day that you can actually negotiate your fees at hospitals. Yeah, here in this country. I was like, what? Does everybody know that? There's all these little things we're finding out along the way. The human body, I'm overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that we are learning, the terminology, the physiology. It's mind-blowing. I don't have a specific thing just because there's always an onslaught of stuff. We have a really great pronunciation Dropbox that they do for us because when we get the scripts and there's these 20-letter names for things and you're just like, there is no way I'm ever going to get to a point of saying this with authority. And then you have this Dropbox where they have doctors saying that, breaking it down phonetically, putting it in context, and you just drill that a couple of times and you can get yourself there to a point where it's believable. But it's fascinating. I have one actor friend who actually left the business. He was playing a doctor for many years on a UK drama, medical drama, and he left the business and really went to train as a doctor and is now a doctor. So I guess maybe the longer I do it, the more proficient I'll get at the human body.
You know what I recently learned about the human body is that your foot is this big.
Size of your forearm.
Guys, my foot is so big. Look at that.
You could put your foot in there.
Yeah.
It's
I was going to
incredible.
try, but then I was like, that's way too involved for what we got going on here. One last question before we go.
Hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to know, what made you get into acting, and what advice would you give upcoming actresses?
Well, actually, I wasn't one of these actors who popped out of the womb knowing that I wanted to do it. It came way later. In fact, when you asked, did I go to medical school, I was actually planning to do marine biology, and I was really heavy into the sciences at school. I entered my paper early, like a year early, because I was excelling at it, really, and I was being pushed in that direction willingly by my tutors, and that was it. I was going to go and do science, and then I picked drama as one of my options. I'm not sure about the school system here, but you can pick like 9 subjects, and so I picked drama just because I enjoy plays. And the teacher said, I'm going to do this extracurricular production. I would like you to be in it. I said, okay, I've got a lot of paperwork to do and dissertations, I'll do a tiny role. And it was a Greek tragedy, Antigone. And she was like, no, I want you to play Antigone, the title role. And I was like, girl, that's going to take time. And also, I'm not sure I want that commitment. But I did it. My world turned upside down because I was like, oh, I think I would quite like to do this. And then I completely did a 180 from science to art. So my A-levels, I picked fine art, English literature, and theatre studies. And even at that point, I didn't know which one I was going to take further. I left it to the universe. I just applied to do all three at university, and I thought whichever one comes through first, I'll do. And it was theatre studies. So it's hard for me to answer how to get into it because my path was so protracted. But I did join like a cooperative agency afterwards, which is where a group of actors get together who don't have an agent. And I don't think you do this here, and it's a missed trick, really. Someone should start it. But at home, you can join a co-op. So say there's 10 of us actors out of work. We band together, rent a little office in central London, get a printer, get a computer, get some paper, and then we start cold calling the industry on behalf of each other. So we become each other's agent, essentially. And we cold call. We're like, are you looking for a black girl in her 30s, 5'2"? And they're like, some of them are a bit like, please don't call me again. And some are amused, and they're like, go on then, who have you got in your books? And I booked my first television job because someone was like a bit open. And then I got personal management, and then the rest is history. So again, protracted route, but I feel like, you know, maybe start a co-op in this country.
Well, I think the lesson is get creative, right? Look for other avenues that don't exist and create your own success in your own way. Yeah? All right.
Yes.
Well, Freema, I am really pumped. Like, I love network medical dramas, so I'm so excited to see New Amsterdam. And if you guys want to check it out, it debuts on September 25th.
Yes.
It's Tuesdays on NBC at 10/9 Central, guys. Give it up for Freema.
Thank you, Brittany.